In this video, we're going to look at your final exam, problem number 6. In this problem, Dorsey Company manufactures 3 products from a common input in a joint processing operation. Joint processing costs up to the split-off point total $370,000 per quarter. Those costs are not relevant to the problem, do not matter. For financial reporting purposes, the company allocates these costs to the joint products based on their relative sales value at the split-off point. Unit selling prices and total output at the split-off point are as follows. So we're given each quarterly output and each selling price at the split-off point. Each product can be processed further after the split-off point. Additional processing requires no special facilities. The additional processing costs per quarter and unit selling prices after further processing are given below. So in requirement 1, what is the financial advantage or disadvantage of further processing each of the 3 products beyond the split-off point? So let's first look at product A. We have a choice of selling product A at the split-off point. And if we sell product A at the split-off point, we're going to have revenue, we're going to have costs, and we're going to have a profit. So our revenue will be 13,800 pounds. At the price of the split-off point, $24 per pound. There will be no additional processing costs. So our profit, of course, will be $331,200, our revenue minus the additional processing costs. If instead we decide to further process, we would have our revenue. Our revenue would now increase to 13,800 pounds multiplied by the selling price at the additional processing point, $29.50 per pound. So our revenue, 13,800 multiplied by $29.50. And now our costs, as we can see, are given as 81,150. So now I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to take my revenue and subtract my costs to come down to my profit. So now looking at this, we're going to compare these 2 numbers, and we're just going to ask whether it's better to make 331,000 or 325,000. So it looks like it's going to be better to sell this one at the split-off point. So they're asking us for the advantage or disadvantage. So to calculate that, we're going to take the further processing, subtract out the split-off point profit, so I'm just going to take 325,950, and I'm going to subtract 331,200. And we will find that we actually lose money by further processing. Then we take the 325,000, subtract the 331,000. So we would have $5,250 as a disadvantage of further processing, because further processing reduces our profit. So negative 5250. Now let's do exactly the same thing for B. So we're going to now look at product B. So we're going to sell product B first at the split-off point. And remember, at the split-off point, there are no costs. So for B, we're going to have our revenue of 21,500 pounds at the price at the split-off point, which is $18. $387,000, and then at the split-off point, our separable costs are 0. So for B, if we decide to sell at the split-off point, Our profit would be $387,000. Now let's take a look at further processing. So for further processing, we can see from the additional processing that now we would have 21,500 pounds, but they would sell at the further processing point of $24.50. And now we have additional processing costs. So basically this problem asks, is it worth it to spend $117,125 to raise the selling price by $6.50? Well, this analysis will give us the answer. So to take our profit, we're going to have our revenue from further processing, subtract our costs, and we see that we have now 409,625. So once again, we're going to compare these two numbers, the profit from further processing and the profit at the split off point, and we find that we have better profit at the further processing, so that's what we decide to do. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the 409,625, subtract 387,000, and that is the benefit from doing further processing. $22,625 advantage. Now for product C, we're going to do exactly the same thing. So for product C, I'm going to first calculate my profit at the split off point. So revenue, costs, and profit. Let me move down so we can just see product C. So for product C, 5,000 gallons at the price of the split off point, which is $30 per gallon. Zero cost, so I know it's silly to take 150,000 and subtract 0, but that's what we're going to do to calculate the profit. Then if we decide to do additional processing, we would have our revenue, we would have our costs, and we have our profit. So our revenue would now be 5,000 pounds, multiplied by the $38.50, price at the split off point. Our costs, 52,900. Profit, 192,500. Subtract 52,900. We have a profit of 139,600. So it looks like in this case we lose money by further processing. So we take the 139,600, subtract the 150,000, and that is our answer for C. It is a disadvantage to further process. We would lose 10,400. So that goes in as a negative 10,400. For the next part, only the ones that have an advantage would we go and further process. You don't want to do more work in order to lower your profit. The only time you're going to do more work is to increase your profit. So product B would be the only one that we would sell with further processing. So going into requirement 2, product A would be sold at the split off point, not processed further. Right? Higher profit at the split off point. Product B would be processed further, so no and yes. And finally, product C, I didn't yellow out the numbers, but we're comparing the 150,000 to the 139,600. So for this one, we would sell at the split off point and not process further.